This is a crazy time in sprint car racing. We've literally got the world's biggest series, the World of Outlaws, and the series' current 4-time champ, Brad Sweet, working against each other. Let me explain real quick. Sprint car racing payouts have been stagnant for a long time, just like Sheldon Haudenschild said in my recent interview with him.
I feel like the pay needs to come up. It's paid 10 grand my whole life, 30 years, it's paid pretty much the same, and that ain't right.
It's been long overdue for purses to increase, and now with inflation reaching crazy highs and live streaming becoming such a lucrative income stream, the teams and drivers are making a stance. There's been a big push for the World of Outlaws to up their game and give the teams and drivers a bigger piece of the pie. The Outlaws reacted in 2022 by increasing the end of year points fund money by $350,000 and implementing the bonus program where the top 12 full-time drivers from each feature race earn extra dollars. Not a bad improvement year on year. Despite that, along came the High Limit series saying, screw it, we'll put on big shows. During the Outlaws' big 4 days of racing at Eldora Speedway in July, the High Limit series was announced by Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet. Their goal was to promote midweek events for big money. Oh yeah, and it would be streamed on Flow Racing, not Dirt Vision, which, like the World of Outlaws, is owned by World Racing Group. Imagine a new rival series being launched at your event. That's gotta hurt. The only major problem for the Outlaw teams and drivers was that they are contractually not allowed to run those events. The big team and driver combos in the US pretty much have 2 options. Number 1, sign with the Outlaws, race around 80 shows a year, race for at least 10K each night, race for points money, race for bonus money, receive tow money, and sell merchandise at the track. Or option 2, don't sign with the Outlaws, race whatever, whenever, including as many Outlaw shows as you want, and as many high limit shows, all-star shows, and as many other races as you can handle, but don't receive any of the Outlaw perks. Contracting with the Outlaws sounds pretty good until a guy like Brent Marks comes along, wins more money than any other driver and team combo in 2022, and like David Gravel says, has a few weekends off too.
The lucky bastard also is able to take 3-4 weekends off throughout the year, so I am very jealous of Brent Marks.
After seeing what Marks did in 2022, and with the High Limit series properly launching in 2023, it made the big teams seriously consider what they want to do with their 2023 schedules. We knew that something had to change, and this week, the Outlaws changed big time. They announced their 2023 schedule, increased the championship points payout again, introduce a new bonus program, and amazingly have allowed for drivers and teams to race in other non-outlaw events to an extent. On the schedule side, one of the most noteworthy was that they will only travel to the West Coast once in 2023, something that Sheldon and I also spoke about in our interview.
If we drive all the way out to California, but we only race on the weekends and have 6 races scheduled, that makes no sense to me.
Make sure you check that out if you haven't already. The championship points payout had $25,000 added to it, with second place increasing from 100 grand to 120 grand and third place jumping from 75 grand to 80 grand. With the bonus payouts, they scrapped that top 12 full-timer feature finish bonus thingy and added what they've called the exclusivity bonus program, which works in with the flexibility of how many non-outlaw shows you decide to compete in. The exclusivity bonus is administered like a second points fund and includes big money that is almost as good as the championship points fund alone. It means you can now race up to 4 non-outlaw shows and still receive all benefits. You can now also race between 5 to 8 non-outlaw shows, but only lose your exclusivity bonus. But there's a catch with their flexibility. It's a little stiff, as the non-outlaw races have to be outside of 48 hours or a 100-mile radius on either side of a scheduled outlaw event. So they're saying, sure, you can run somewhere else, but we're not paying your tow money, and we don't want those shows to take away from our events. There's a lot to process here, so let's break it all down. I should preface this by saying that I don't necessarily agree with the Outlaws or the teams. I hate that sprint car racing isn't a profitable sport for the top teams and drivers. In an ideal world, the best 40 teams would be profiting, but I also can't see how the Outlaws could be solely to blame for this. Firstly, Why don't the Outlaws just allow the teams to run other events? Well, it really is all about exclusivity. I used to agree that teams and drivers should just run whatever and whenever, but it's important to understand that the Outlaws are about building a premier brand for sprint car racing, meaning they can't just let anyone abuse that product. They know that they have the best sprint car drivers racing with them, or most of them, and with that, they know they have the responsibility to ensure they present the best possible sprint car events in the world. The drivers and teams do their job, and the Outlaws do their job, but they need to work together. And that brings me to another point that I don't see anyone bringing up, which is that the Outlaws do not own sprint car racing. They are just one series. They're the biggest and best series. And until someone decides to do a better job, you're just asking for more off the guys who already provide the best deal. There's a reason the best in the world run with the Outlaws, and it's because they know they can't consistently and realistically earn more anywhere else. Just like Gravel said in his chat with successful crew chief Tyler Swank.
If you're running 10 seasons running sprint cars, I think you'd make the most money racing the World of Outlaws on average.
Also on Gravel's chat with Swank, Swank suggested that in 2016, when he ran with the Caneric racing team, that it would cost them about 8 to 9K to run each night at a minimum.
It was like 8 or 9 grand a night just to drop the door.
Let's be kind and say that inflation has risen that price to only 10K a night. And with the 2023 Outlaw schedule including 87 races, that means running costs of a top Outlaw team are almost $900,000 a year. It certainly makes you wonder how most, if not all of these teams run as full-time operations when 2022's biggest earner took home just $643,000. So how does the Outlaws announcement affect the High Limit series? Well, it allows the Outlaw guys to run the High Limit shows, which has to be a positive, but only a limited amount of them, depending on things like when are the shows being held or how far away are they. From what the High Limit series has announced so far in terms of payouts, I really don't see the High Limit series as a rival to the Outlaws, and it seems as though they've found some common ground. It does make you question though what the big shows are going to be that Eldora Speedway are teasing on the 2 days before the King's Royal. Either way, it seems contracted Outlaw teams aren't allowed to run it. To finish up here, you don't have to be a brainiac to realize that starting a sprint car racing team isn't the best business idea you could come up with. At the end of the day, it's obvious that sprint car racing needs to grow to be sustainable, and instead of growing in different directions, it's important to work as one unit to make sure that happens. There needs to be a consistent first-class product that not only lifelong fans can get behind, but new fans can too. Is the Outlaws brand and vision going to grow sprint car racing to reach millions more fans? That's really what needs to be answered. Should the Outlaws be solely responsible for teams being profitable? Or should the teams be incentivized by the Outlaws to help grow the sport and the series to new heights? I think somewhere in there is where the key is to unlocking the best motorsport in the world. There's no doubt that the Outlaws is what has made sprint car racing great, and a track promoter putting on a 10K to win show up the road the day before or after is just trying to benefit from the Outlaws for free.
Don't I get a lick? Doesn't Gil get a lick?
You would feel ripped off if someone did that to your series, which is why it's great that you can either choose to run every Outlaws race as a contracted driver and team, or do a true Outlaw schedule and do whatever you want. It feels kind of crazy that this pure raw sport can be so entertaining on track, yet we're talking about how much money teams make or lose. We could also be talking about the new Coozies sprint car tyre, upcoming major Australian sprint car races, or even the mandatory fire suppression system for all Outlaw cars in 2023. But we're all talking about money instead. Either way, I wanted this video to be insightful and thought-provoking, so I hope you've got something out of it. If you want to learn more on this subject, I've linked to a bunch of really good videos and other relevant info down below. And if you enjoyed this video, the best way to let me know is by commenting your thoughts, liking this video, and even grabbing yourself some Sprint Car Hub merchandise from the sprintcarhub.com store, where we've got a lot of new merch coming very soon, including hats just like this.